Welcome, Your Holiness.
Right, Dalai. Thank you. Right.
Request Lady Guru, Ashoka on stage and presented their books on Oneness and Lama and Nagarjuna.
그동안 힌두죠.
Thank you. Thank you. I always consider I am one of the students of Nagarjuna and also serious practitioner about Nagarjuna's theory. Now I can say that Nagarjuna's theory, teaching, actually change our emotion. Now, over 60 years, and particularly last 30, 40 years, serious sort of thinking about Nagarjuna's teaching, it really affects my emotion. So we are same human being. If you pay more attention, the serious study, not just meditation, so-called meditation, almost like rest, not that way, but seriously sort of use or kind of truk kare. Truk. Level truk.
To rack up your brain.
Utilize our intelligence maximum way. Through that way, you see, transform our emotion. So of course, I respect and also, you see, follow the teaching of Pema Sambhava, but his teaching, quite simple, not sort of philosophical things. So he's a great practitioner as well as a great scholar. So I also want to be a small scholar. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope you will enjoy the Padma Sabhas written by Guru.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Holiness. This is a real privilege for us to be able to present these books to you. They are the first two in a series I dreamt of to do books on the great Indian Buddhist masters that a lot of Indians do not know about. And so I asked 6 people to write 6 books on great masters in a very storytelling manner so that people get to know who they are and then want to learn from their teachings. So the first 2 books are out and then there'll be more coming later. Thank you very much.
Your Holiness, it's a pleasure and honor to be here today. Thank you for the foreword that you have given for my small book on Nagarjuna. And last year on 20th September 2015, I had the honor to organize a talk and lunch for you in London for leading members of the British Indian community. And they all felt very blessed. His Holiness consistently teaches us to follow the path of non-violence, love and compassion in accordance with the teachings of the Buddha. And it's thanks to His Holiness that there are no Tibetan terrorists, and China should be grateful to him for keeping the peace. His Holiness works closely with scientists, and he writes in the foreword that it was a nuclear physicist, Raja Raman, who alerted him to the intersection of quantum physics and Madhyamaka. Nagarjuna's message of inherent emptiness, the no self, and interdependence of existence has found support in modern scientific advances. Quantum physics reveals matter as a complex web of relations between the different parts of the whole. His Holiness insists on the need for both physics and philosophy in the quest to end suffering, which is one of the main aims of Buddhism and of all human beings. And it's wonderful to be able to attend His Holiness's teachings in Delhi, and I shall treasure this wonderful present moment, for as Nagarjuna wrote, you dwell among the causes of death like a butter lamp standing in a strong breeze. Thank you.
Your Holiness, venerables, distinguished guests and friends. Recently, while I was working on a book on Hindu-Buddhist philosophy for conflict avoidance, I came across a beautiful message by Prime Minister Modi. He said, what India got was Siddhartha, what India gave to the world was Lord Buddha. This series of books carries the thread forward and reminds us that it's not just Lord Buddha, but the second Buddha, the Bodhidharma, and several Indian masters who've carried the message forward. It is only befitting that this series of books is then presented to another great master and to one of the most loved, beloved, revered sons of India. I would also like to thank Tushita Foundation, the Office of His Holiness, for giving us this opportunity and for allowing us to have the books outside, and to my colleagues here. Thank you to each one of you. Thank you so much. We're blessed.
Talking about Nagarjuna, I am reminded of the fact that once upon a time, Nagarjuna was the abbot of Nalanda University. And today I find it very ironical that His Holiness is in India and Nalanda University is being re-established. And our concerned authorities, because of their political compulsions, are not using His Holiness's expertise. So I urge the government and the concerned authorities to please give a thought to it. Holiness is going to give a lecture on compassion and secular ethics in the world today. His Holiness, like the Buddha, advocates compassion for all the 6 classes of beings. Your Holiness, in this day and age of hyper-consumerism, socio-economic, cultural and political strife, the ethical crisis is deepening significantly. So Your Holiness, I wonder if, like the ethical hacking in the cyber world, can we actually talk about ethical corruption in daily life? We look forward to hearing your words of wisdom. May I now request Your Holiness to teach.
Dear brothers and sisters, firstly, I want to make clear, person who sit a little different way and dress or Buddhist monk's robe, and audience is dressed ordinary way. Basically, we are same. When we're born, same way. In our daily life, some destructive emotion, some constructive emotion, always go side by side. So sometimes person happy, sometimes unhappy, sometimes mentally really desperate, sometimes really peace. So we are same. And then finally, when we have to sort of die. So we all mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. The important is everybody want happy life. It is our right. And actually, happiness is, I think, the purpose of our life. I feel that. So, irrespective of whether religious-minded or not, we are same human being. Now, I think maybe news to some people. I have some serious discussion with scientists. So I also usually describe. I also some kind of scientist. Okay. So some occasion, some well-known, respected scientist, through their observation and experiment, basic human nature is more compassionate. It's quite clear. Since infant child, they grown up without affection from their mother, from their parent, or from their sort of friend. Child maybe die if nobody take care. Die. Even take care, just feeding, only feeding, no showing affection. I think the child's brain development, I think, great damage. So some scientists say after birth, few weeks, mother's physical touch, holding child, is key factor for proper development of their brain or enlarging their brain. Then people who constantly experience fear, anger, hatred, actually eating our immune system. These things are not come from religious book, but scientists, they say that. Then our daily sort of experience. The day we met some friend, trusted friend, and some, they really sort of showing each other our human affection. Then that day, the person, even some problem happened, basic sort of emotion, quite sort of good, peaceful. Then even sort of some problems happen. He or she may feel, this is a problem, but okay. The day, from early morning, you get some agitation. Then even your best friend come. When you see your friend's face, you're uncomfortable. So therefore, you say, I think basic human nature is more compassionate. So the compassionate atmosphere is very important for our life and even for our physical, as I mentioned earlier. So therefore, human being, firstly, social animal. Now, today's world, a lot of suffering created by human being or self. You see, these clearly shows with too much emphasis, we and they. Whether national, because of the different nationalities, or different system, or different sort of background, and a different faith. So make a distinction, make a separation, we and they, and then eventually develop killing other. So therefore, a lot of problems which we humanity facing, I think more serious of the problem is actually human beings themselves created. So it is our responsibility to solve, to reduce this problem. So the universal sort of value, compassion, love, that I think now, irrespective whether believer or non-believer, we humanity, in order to become happier humanity, these are very essential. Then look past century of bloodshed, century of violence, immense suffering, over 200 million people killed. Now that kind of sort of century should not repeat if we carry our way of thinking, way of life as the previous sort of century. Then I think this 21st century also can be miserable, suffering century, violent century. So we have this intelligence. Now we saw immense suffering in 20th century. Now we must make effort. That kind of suffering should not repeat. So, money alone will not do that, because it cannot do that, right? Or military power also it cannot do. I think even if military power, I think create more problem. No matter how sincere motivation or good because of the aim or goal. Once touch, or say the weapon, try to solve the problem, even because of the justified way, or use violence. It's very nature of violence. Often, if you touch violence, counter violence, then go that way, endless violence. So the only way, this human intelligence, we are not animal, we have this intelligence, show the other our affection on the basis of oneness of humanity. We are same. So as a human being, I always was trying to make little contribution regarding deeper awareness about that. That's my number one commitment. Correct? I think this is okay. Just this one. Okay. And this is quite hot, so cold water is good. So, then second commitment, on the level of I'm Buddhist. I'm Buddhist monk. When we look past history, including Indian history, and Europe, and many places, sometimes religious faith also causing problem. Now today, also you see, the religion, the very sources of forgiveness, tolerance, love, that itself causing more division, fighting, killing. Unthinkable. Other hand, on this planet, the religious harmony also there. For example, India is, I think, best example. Over 2,000 years, I think maybe 3,000 years. So different religion developed in this country. I think firstly, Sankhya philosophy. Then, I think Charvaka, and then I think other. Do you know the Sanskrit word Charvaka?
The Vaisheshikas,
Jabava,
Mimamsakas,
Dyababa.
Jainism.
Is it true? I'm not very sure. Maybe I think he's, because of the knowledge, I think more reliable, I think, very good. So, then Jain philosophy, then Buddhist philosophy, these are homegrown, different traditions. Then eventually Zoroastrian come from ancient Parsi, Iran or Parsi, like that. So I always used to admire the Parsi community, very small, in Bombay. Less than 100,000. Among the millions of Hindus and Christians and some other followers, but no fear. Very small community, very happily settled. So that's the India. So different religions have complete sort of freedom to keep their own tradition. Occasionally some problem here and there. So media people loves to make bigger these incidents. So I usually is telling the Indians also human being. So over billion populated nation, there must be some mischievous people. Over billion human being, not a holy person. There are some mischievous people. So therefore, there are some sort of mischievous sort of different activities. It is possible. But overall, India, I think, really good example. Different rich tradition live together. And best thing, I think some cases, yes, mutual learning. I think ancient time, when the great scholar, including Nagarjuna in Nalanda or Amavati area, Nagarjuna Kondra. I think they sometimes used to argue with non-Buddhist scholars, but very friendly, with respect. So one example, one of my great friend, I may mention now, Kasachuti. No. Or in any way, the former Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Kasa.
Advani.
No.
Krishna Advani.
Advani. By a long time, my friend. So one occasion, you see, he mentioned the secular, according to Indian understanding, secular means respect all religion and also respect non-believer. And then he mentioned in ancient time, many sort of spiritual sort of scholars criticize the Charvaka's viewpoint, Charvaka nihilism, nihilistic. So criticize, but they refer person who hold Charvaka view, they describe Rishi. Rishi means kasa, sage. So there is clearly sort of show respect. So he told me like that. So therefore, see, while you sort of show or argue disagreement, but at the same time, respect. that person. And then, in ancient time, I think 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century, I think a few centuries, you see, a lot of engagement between Nalanda masters and the non-Buddhist scholars. So it is mutual benefit, mutual beneficial. Both, I think, develop due to sort of also the debate like that. So Nalanda masters, it's their logic, Buddhist logic, and non-Buddhist traditions logic always is to go side by side together. So that is mutual learning. So I think because of that, I think religious harmony is kept through centuries. So since India, most populated democratic country, in modern time, still religious harmony there. Therefore, the rest of the world, you see, can develop with religious harmony. So my second commitment is promotion of religious harmony. As a matter of fact, since 2000, correct, September 11, the event in New York and also in Washington. After 1 year, some kind of memory prayer or something in Washington, the National Cathedral. They at that time I was in Washington, so they invited me. So I went there, and then I told that big gathering. Due to that event, due to, you see, carried by some mischievous Muslim background people, this should not generalize because of this event. Whole Islam is something militant or negative. That's totally wrong. Some mischievous people in every tradition there. Buddhists also, among the Buddhists also some mischievous people there, some Hindus also there, some Christians also there, some Jews also there. So everywhere, some mischievous people always there. These mischievous people never representing the whole tradition. So since then, whenever some interfaith sort of meeting take place, I always defending Islam. So therefore, the all major religious tradition, if you seriously, sincerely practice, then all carry same message of love, message of compassion, and with that message of tolerance and forgiveness, always there. So therefore, there is sufficient reason to promote religious harmony. I always say, telling people, the all major religious tradition, three aspects. One aspect is religion. In that aspect, same, all religion, same. Another aspect is philosophy. Now there are major differences. The theistic religion, they have the concept of creator. Non-theistic religion, such as Jainism and Buddhism and one part of Sankhyaism, no creator, no concept of creator. And within, let's say, the non-theistic religion, there is a differences, concept of Atma and Anatma. Jainism, Sankhyaism, accept concept of Atma. Buddhism, no concept of Atma. Within Buddhism, within Buddhist different school of thought. Four major different school of thought: Vaibhashik, Saudantic, Chittamantra, Madhyamika. Within these four, within each, there are again sub-schools, different philosophical views. So there are many different sort of views in the philosophical field. And then we have to ask, we have to raise question, what's the purpose of these different philosophies? Same purpose. You see, to strengthening the belief or conviction about the value of compassion. So I think in order to cure one illness, different medicine, according condition of the patient's body and mind, due to sort of, and also climate condition. Some Tibetan, for example, Tibetan medicine, some medicine during winter time, very suitable. Summertime, another type, more suitable. So same purpose. So Buddha himself, you see, taught different contradictory philosophy. Because, you see, among his own followers, there are people who have different disposition. Therefore, it is necessary. Different philosophy, different views are necessary. So, in the philosophical field, there are differences, but same purpose. So, no problem. And then third aspect is whether we call kasota cultural heritage or habit. So there are, I think there are sort of the influence, certain sort of practice or certain sort of cultural heritage, certain sort of influence from the existing society system. Some of my friends told me some occasion when Jain founder Mahavira come before he come, at that time immense sort of animal sacrifice. So that such extent harming the people's sort of economy or living standard like that. So at that kind of a situation, Mahavira come and special emphasis against killing any life. And Buddha also followed that. Similarly, the Judaism, under difficult circumstances, it's sometimes quite sort of, also the tough stand, eye for eye survey, like that, under difficult circumstances. Then I think the Quran, at that time, I think in that area, more or less nomad. So among the nomad, no proper sort of rule, moving here and there, and then it's some crimes often, you see, happen. Therefore, you see, in Quran, he emphasizes Sharia law. So under circumstances, you see, these different sort of, or city, rules, or sort of what's the habit happen. Then in India, also you see, what do you call caste system or? You see, these, I think some connection with the sort of spiritual tradition, but these are due to sort of the circumstances in the past feudal system. So the authority, the leaders, say, in order to
Keep law and order.
in order to create certain sort of right position, leader, including spiritual leaders. Sometimes you see create that kind of sort of concept. Same human being, make distinction. That I believe there's some influence from the feudal system. That's why the French Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution, you see the tendency of against religion. Actually, religion is practice of love. Nobody against that. Even so, the animal also appreciate. But then, so the negative attitude towards religion, that is religious institution. Religious institution, feudal, very much connection with the feudal system, and too much exploitation, the sort of poor people. So the feudal system gone. Now we are a democratic society. The future of the world is democracy. So therefore, there's certain heritage influenced by existing societies or system, like a feudal system. Now we have to change. Now, in this country, the spiritual leaders, I think, hopefully, you should make more effort to educate people. We are same. The century-old certain concept, we are sort of low caste or something, isn't it? Low caste. What do you call low caste or scheduled caste? I heard in some area, the wealth, the people who upper caste use the well, the low caste cannot sort of drink or cannot use. So that kind of sort of system, habit. Now these are outdated. Now we must make effort. So basically all major religious traditions, same message. Different philosophy, they are same goal. So you see, we can develop genuine harmony among different religious traditions with mutual respect, mutual understanding, mutual learning. So my second commitment is promotion of religious harmony. So one occasion in Australia, before I speak in public talk, one Christian minister, a wonderful person, you see, he very much dedicated serving poorer section of people or homeless children or like that. So when he introduced me, he mentioned he considered Dalai Lama is good Christian. So then when I speak, I also, you see, respond, yes, I consider you as a good Buddhist. So there is some sense, you see, we practice love, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline, and contentment. So these are common practice and serving others. So sometimes I think Christian brothers, sisters, I think more active serving to society. Then Buddhist monk, we remain in monastery. Sometimes I feel monk remain in the monastery expecting some money. And with Lama also, you see, or sitting on throne or not necessarily intentionally, but showing I'm extraordinary person. So therefore, it's an old major religious tradition, I think, same potential. So there's sufficient reason to respect. And then, third, my commitment is regarding Tibet. Now, political matter, since 2011, I totally retired from political responsibility. We already achieved elected political leadership. So recent election, two candidates, we also begin to learn how to compete. Sometimes a little bit sort of critical view other candidate like that. So recent American sort of election, the candidates sometimes I think they truly use the freedom of speech or freedom of thought. So like that. So I think political field, we already practice democratic system seriously and effectively. So I totally retired. So not only myself retired, but also, you see, the 4-century-old tradition, Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that formally, happily, proudly cease. So now, even if the 15th Dalai Lama, if come, no political significance. So, however, the Chinese government very much concerned about 15th Dalai Lama. I think they are most concerned about Dalai Lama institution than me. I have no concern. As early as 1969, one of my official formal statement, I stated the very institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not up to Tibetan people. Some people consider Dalai Lama institution something very important for Buddha Dharma. It is wrong. I often is telling people there is no Shakyamuni's institution, or no Nagarjuna's institution, or Nagarjuna's sort of official, formal sort of reincarnation. No. They are teaching. It's the real sort of representing these great scholars or great spiritual leaders. So I think to some extent, a little way, after me, some of my talks, these may remain as a sort of representative of great 14th Dalai Lama. So person not important. It's a proper sort of way to preserve the Buddha Dharma is study. Now tomorrow I am going to South India. So there are historical learning, sort of as a monastic institution re-established among our sort of resettlement area. So last now over 57 years, they carry continuously the sort of study. I think very scholar way, academic way. So now this time, one sort of new thing, I think, in Tibetan history, I think this is almost, first time they give degree, Geshe degree to none. I think at least the last several centuries, nunnery not sort of seriously study these things. About 40 years ago, I appealed them. You see, as far as study is concerned, we have sort of, we should create equal opportunity. So now, I think many nuns, they seriously study last 20 years. So now this year, formally, officially, now giving Geshe Master degree, like that. So, regarding Bhikshuni vow, that's beyond my control. That we have to go according to Vinaya sort of rule. So there are some differences. So Vinaya is concerned, the Theravada Buddhist countries and the Vinaya system and you see the Sanskrit traditions, Vinaya is concerned, same, the foundation of Buddha Dharma, Buddhist teaching. So therefore, slight differences because of design, different section. Our Vinaya is according to Mula Savasati Vatan. The Theravada country, their sort of Vinaya is according Kasa, or is Theravada, like that. So these, so actually, it's no differences. Slight sort of minor differences, otherwise same. So therefore, regarding sort of a Bhikshuni vow, restoration of Bhikshuni vow, you see, we have to sort of have consensus from these different Buddhist country. We have sort of common practice of Vinaya. So this is beyond my control. But what I can do is, I decided all nunnery should study similar way, and finally should become Geshe. So now, I think within this month, I'm giving also the Geshe Master degree, like that. So, my sort of, as a Tibetan, as a Dalai Lama, you see, my commitment till my death is protection, special care about the Tibetan environment. Then, because of the preservation of Tibetan Buddhist knowledge, that's a Nalanda tradition. It's really, I think, now it seems quite clear. Among all Buddhist countries, I think Tibetan knowledge on the basis of text wrote by these Nalanda masters, I think we kept, best. So therefore, the preservation of this knowledge is not only concern for 6 million Tibetan people, but also I think all Buddhist world, I think this preservation, this knowledge is really relevant. And then language. All these sort of sophisticated Buddhist philosophy, logic, Tibetan language is now, I think, best language to describe these things. Now Sanskrit, that language. The Hindi, not yet developed that on this field. The English, of course, no hope. And as well as German and French, I think you have to make new vocabulary, otherwise it's difficult. And Chinese, of course, even before Buddhism reached Tibet, China already Buddhism flourished. But this philosophical field, I think the Tibetan, word, Tibetan language is much more sort of the precise way. Because Tibetan language itself, you see, while translation, while doing translation, the new vocabulary you see created. So therefore, the Tibetan translation, very close, the original Sanskrit word, meaning of the word, very close. So therefore, I think the preservation of Tibetan Buddhist knowledge is, I think, interest for entire Buddhist world. And then also, in nowadays, you say, I make a distinction. The content of about 300 volumes of Ganjur and Tenjur, content we can divide 3 parts. Number 1, science, atomic, or these things. Although I think modern scientists, their finding is much more authentic, reliable, wonderful. But the basic sort of concept of the particles mentioned. So, and then mainly psychology, the knowledge about mind, about emotion. Then also method how to tackle our emotion. These should not consider as a part of Buddhism, but should consider academic subject. So that's one part. Second part, Buddhist philosophy. Like the Four Noble Truths concept is directly linked with Buddhism. But other sort of philosophical views, such as true truth, Sanskrit,
the two truths are Samvritti Satya and Paramartha Satya in Sanskrit.
So these true truth is now quantum physics also now seeking the reality that nothing can be found. So according quantum physics, they already concluded the external thing, nothing objectively exists. So then they, you see, say observer sort of view is only observer sort of views were. So now here, I think it seems to me, quantum physics, as far as external thing is concerned, quantum physics already concluded nothing objectively exists. Now the observer side, now the question of Atma and Anatma, independent self or not. So Buddhist concept, no independent self. So therefore, one German scientist, specialist about the brain, one occasion, our meeting with a scientist, he draw one sort of human brain. Then he mentioned the working, the brain, the way work brain. You see, fully cooperation way, interdependent that way. No place of central authority. So then he just half joke, I think, he mentioned Buddhist concept, no independent self. It's very much related, very much so similar that the concept of Atma, concept of independent soul, then there must be some central area which sort of give authority to remaining brain. He mentioned that. And anyway, so I really feel the quantum physics wonderful. Now I think Buddhist sort of as a philosophy, external things also, you see, if we investigate, we cannot find. Similarly, observer also, if you investigate, we cannot find. So everything, shunya shunya nature, shunyata. So, the Panchaparamita Sutra, Sindhaya, the Heart Sutra, you see, at the beginning mentioned, form is empty, right? Emptiness is form. Form and emptiness of the form, very much
very much in the same essence.
Yes.
The form and its emptiness are very much in the same
Form,
essence.
form is basis of emptiness form. Without a base, form also, emptiness also is nothing. So the very reason why these things are empty, is these existence interdependent. Due to other factor, exists to come. So there is no independent existence. So patit samupad, this word patit samupad, interdependent. So I really see, some occasion I really wondering, those genuine quantum physicists who not only intellectually some sort of understanding, but truly believe that, then maybe their sort of emotion level, maybe some differences. That's I'm wondering to investigate. I express to some my sort of friend. Because you see, in Buddhist context, or Madhyamika philosophy context, particularly the Nagarjuna sort of the text, clearly mentioned all these negative emotions, such as anger, attachment, all these very much based on kasa.
Very much based on inappropriate thinking.
So that developed on the basis of feeling, grasping things objectively exist. Once you understand nothing objectively exists, then the very basis of this exaggeration is weaker. So anger's attachment very much based on exaggeration. That's another, my sort of friend once, American scientist. His name was Aaron Beck. When I first met him, he's already his age 84. Since I really admire that person, so I think 2 years ago, I went in his sort of compartment. Then his age already 96 or 7, like that. So he, not a religious-minded person. Of course, not Buddhist. So he, I think several decades, he treating the person who mentally some disturbed, mainly anger. Then you see, he found when anger develops, the object which they feel angry, that object appears very negative. Then he told me 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. This is exactly Nagarjuna stated. So Buddhists, you see, use that philosophy as combat destructive emotion. The destructive emotion, constructive emotion such as infinite love, compassion, these things not based on ignorance, wrong view. By nature, all this negative emotion based on wrong view. So understanding about ultimate reality is antidote of this wrong view. This much, as I mentioned earlier, you say, as a student of the Master Nagarjuna, according through my own experience, now I develop full conviction or meditate on shunyata is really immense help to reduce anger and attachment. Nowadays, almost none. Anger, attachment. Because, of course, practice of altruism also some effect, but real effect come from understanding about the ultimate reality. That's emptiness, shunyata. So I feel preservation of these Tibetan understanding about Buddhism, particularly Nalanda philosophy, is something very useful. So therefore, this philosophy, some philosophy directly linked with Buddhism, that's for Buddhist. But some should consider as an academic subject. So this part, I think we have potential to serve humanity in order to reduce this too much anger, too much sorrow, because biased view is causes of conflict, causes of violence. Not as a religion, but simply the psychological sort of system, like that. So that's my third commitment, preservation of Tibetan knowledge about Buddhism. So sometimes I sort of jokingly telling people, many Tibetan, last year, or I mean, sometime in America, when I met some Tibetan, I told them, and previously we have the sort of had name of Lamaism. Now many sort of people who really, because of the pain, because of the attention, now people not saying our Tibetan Buddhism is Lamaism no longer. In Japan also I notice now many Japanese sort of Buddhist scholar now very rare to use the word of Lamaism. Tibetan tradition is truly Nalanda tradition. So I express this to Tibetan. Now, after a few decades, the impression Tibetan Buddhism is not authentic Buddhism, but everything mixture. So Lamaism. So now that had already sort of removed, and now new had authentic Nalanda tradition. And then I add all this I done. I told the Tibetan, I always talk in Nalanda tradition, Nalanda tradition, Nalanda tradition. So I think eventually, you see, people now realize Tibetan Buddhist tradition is quite authentic, very scientific, like that. So while I sort of mentioning about my 3 commitments, I also explain about something about the human value in order to develop happy humanity, peaceful century. And second commitment, promotion of religious harmony. I think in order to genuine sort of harmony, I think it is important to know the different traditions. Like Babashek, one of the Nagarjuna's student, you see, he wrote one sort of one text about the Madhyamika philosophy, and then
it's auto-commentary.
It's a very, very detailed sort of explanation. All different school of thought at that time. Very detailed sort of described, mentioned, and some Oh yes, and then mistake. Bhava
Holiness is referring to Bhava Vivek's writings.
Thank you. Your correction. Thank you. So it is worthwhile. As a 81-year-old person's mind, sometimes a name is sometimes a mistake. So the younger person, although his color of hair looks very old. So grateful, your correction. Thank you. So therefore, I think the comparative study, all these different traditions, that brings mutual respect. So here, I often used to telling, concept of one religion, one truth, and concept of several truth, several religion. Two things looks contradiction, but no contradiction, not contradictory. Individual case, yes, one truth, one religion. So that help to keep single-pointed faith towards one's own tradition. But in the terms of humanity, in terms of group of people, then several truths, several religion, whether you like it or not, already there. So in terms of several people, the concept of several truths, several religion is very relevant. So I carry that sort of view. I respect all major world religious tradition. So since 1975, I start one practice, pilgrimage to different temples on different holy places. And when I sort of pilgrimage to different sort of holy places with holy hat, and when I go to a mosque, the Muslim hat. When I enter Senegal, remember, Senegal, the Jewish hat. That's very good. And then the Gurdwara, the Sikhism, Sikhs was the temple. I often used to remember one occasion I visited as a pilgrimage to different sort of holy places. Then the last, already a little bit tired, so the Gurdwara, so they, as usual, they give us prasad, one sweet, very delicious. I feel a little sort of tiredness and a little hungry, so that sort of prasad, not only just a sacred prasad, but also very good, give me more energy. Like that. So since 75, I start that practice. With this sort of practice, I also have the opportunity to make pilgrimage to Kasachauti, Jerusalem. The Wailing Wall, with Jewish sort of friend, and then one ancient, the Syrian Christian church. I went there. Then the rock, the sacred rock, the mosque, and I think Muhammad. I think some special experience at that place. So like that. Since then, whenever I have the opportunity, pay my respect and faith towards a different religious tradition, I always practice that. It is quite useful. So now, how many time? Still? How? Should go to order. And then another 30 minutes. Now I would like to take some questions. And the written question, and also I also would like to take directly some microphone should make us available. One or two microphone. First, written question.
Your Holiness, there is so much cruelty and violence in the world. How can we maintain faith in God, seeing the things we do today?
Is God, according to theistic religion, God, our creator, infinite love. So all these negative things in the name of religion is our own creation. So I often used to telling people, when we face some sort of, what's today, violence or these sort of crisis, pray to God, pray to Buddha is not the right way. If we have opportunity to see Buddha or Jesus Christ or Muhammad, if we ask, please bring peace on this planet, I think they may answer, who created violence? We, not God. So the people or the factors already, the creator of this violence have the responsibility, have to solve by those by themselves. So therefore, I think according to theistic religion, God infinite love. God creates external world and internal world, and the internal world sort of human being or sentient beings. Then I think God creates all sentient beings in deep heart, the seed of compassion there, and particularly social animal, and furthermore human being. As I mentioned earlier, the basic nature of a human being is compassionate. That's the creation of the infinite love. So wonderful. So then I think God was to give us free will. So we use free will a little bit wrong way. So if we too much use wrong way, free will, then God may feel regret. So we should be genuine follower of God. God, according to Christianity, and those who are theistic religion, this very life created by God, no previous life. So this is very powerful. This very life created by God. So naturally, that sort of view brings feeling of intimacy with God. So more closeness feeling with God, more willingness to follow God's path. So therefore, I think basic human nature is very positive, as I mentioned earlier, compassionate. Now, our destructive emotion, that I think our responsibility to tackle these emotion, destructive emotion. That's all. So that's our responsibility. And meantime, pray to God, very good. Then according to non-theistic religion, then all this, according to law of causality, we create negative causes, mainly with negative emotion. So then result is always destructive, like that. Next question?
Can you explain abundance?
Then I think a half joke. One time, one of my great friend, a very close friend, is a very, very sort of faithful, religious-minded. That person asked me, whole world created by God. Then among his creation, some mischievous people there. Why God creates that? He asked me. Then I have no other sort of the answer. Then half little bit to joke, half seriously, I told him, since God created heaven and hell, so there must be someone go to hell. Otherwise, there's no purpose or no use to create hell. Yes.
Can you explain abundance? And can you explain abundance?
Kasa.
And do different dimensions exist?
And that?
Do different dimensions exist?
Kasa. Correct. What is the main question? Main point?
There are two questions actually. What is abundance?
What is the exact meaning of abundance? I don't know. The second part.
Do different dimensions exist?
I think maybe some connection. One of my great friend, writer, he also wrote some books. I have sort of great respect him. A very close friend. So one occasion he asked me, your mind, very scientific minded. At the same time, you also accept or believe the oracles. He found this is contradiction. Then I told him, even within our sort of ordinary sensorial sort of level, sensorial sort of experience, you see, there are thousands of different species of sort of sentient being. And sometimes you see new species also come. Some old species disappear. Then there are some indication. You see, some mysterious sort of sentient being we cannot see, we cannot touch. But it's indication there. So I told him, there are different form of life. Somehow we can see by sort of the ordinary organs can see, can hear. Some level, ordinary organs we cannot touch, cannot see. But sometimes in dream state, more subtle level of consciousness, sometimes we can feel some indication. You see, sometimes you see, some my friend also you see, when they firstly reach Dharamsala, they told me they already saw that sort of scenery, the landscape. So then, when I sort of asked a further question, then they also felt, oh, they are dreaming. Few years ago, you see, in their dream, the exact landscape. So these are so far it's a scientific scientifically cannot explain. So some mysterious things there. And then some sort of knowledge sometimes. Oh, my tutor, Rinpoche, late tutor. You see, some questions I ask, you see, and his answer, at the beginning seems, you see, wrong answer. But then time passes, his answer becomes very correct. So later one occasion I asked him, oh, it seems you have some ability to know future. He doesn't deny. He answered me, oh, occasionally that kind of experiences happen. So my dear teacher, never telling lie. And actual sort of factor, I notice, you see, he sees something. We ordinarily, you see, cannot guess, but he sees that. So like that. So mysterious things there. Then I think the person who passed away still body remain very fresh. Next 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4, 5 weeks. Now some scientists, you see, begin to showing interest. So we also now some project to investigate such case. The brain dead. As soon as blood circulation stop, then brain dead. But the physical still remain very fresh. So these things are mysterious things. So I think genuine scientists, their mental attitude is more open. They're not sort of not biased. So therefore, still, you see, there is room to investigate different fields. So different lives. Right. Next question.
How can you encourage the students in schools to be more compassionate?
Now some my friend already committing, they determined, you see, through teaching, through explanation to young children, students, about basic human value, that also universal value, compassion, these things. So not based on religious belief, but based on scientific finding and our common experience and common sense. So actually, I often, you see, have the feeling, and accordingly I express many occasions, the existing our education system is very much oriented about material value. So people who come through that kind of education is automatically, you see, more oriented about external sort of values, like that. So the existing education system is not adequate in order to create a happy person. Only external thing. Then there are no moral principles. Just getting money or power as much as possible, and no question of ethics. So that's why many places there is corruption. I think serious matter. In China, India, and also no matter how sort of good system, for example, this socialist socialist system, wonderful. but ultimately depend on individuals' moral principle. Look, China, socialist country. If they carry genuine principle about socialism, then this huge gap, rich and poor, never develop. Right? Cannot. But then people, individual, lack of moral principle, and ultimately lack of the compassionate sort of feeling, then this corrupt, no matter how good system, eventually, you see, it just become just because of the word like that. And then India also, I think India is with modern education. I think British introduced, wonderful. Now India's technology, all this, highly now, so developing, still develop, wonderful. But moral standard, sometimes you see, a little bit sort of, I think, due to negligence. So sometimes you see, in this country, I think every family, I think, morning some puja in front of Ganesh or Saraswati or some other gods and goddesses, some incense, some sort of flowers, and they pray. But their daily life, not much concern about corruption. So it seems to me they pray to God, oh, my corrupted life must be successful. So that's, I think, a big contradiction. The other society, no religion. Religion is opium, poison. Then only material thing. Then corruption, understandable. Here, many people really talking karma and talking deeper value. And then corruption, little bit sort of surprise. But I think due to lack of education about value of inner, because of the moral principle. Moral principle entirely depend on compassionate sort of thought, like that. What is the question? Main point?
We can take some direct questions.
Yes. Main point in this question. What?
Main point was, how can you make children more compassionate?
Oh, so education. Now already, I really very much sort of happy. Some organization, some individuals, now really working in that direction. This morning also I met a few groups. They totally dedicated, and also yesterday. So I very much sort of impressed, and I always is telling these people, now those who committed themselves to do something, I usually telling them, I have this brain and have some lot of visions and mouth, but no hand. Just talk, just express. Cannot cannot move much, only two hand. So I need more hand. So I telling these people, now these people I consider my additional hand. So idea come from one person, then movement come through because of the people, many considered people. Then I think we also last, I think, almost, I think, 15 years. As I mentioned earlier, the 300 volumes Buddhist text, from that sort of, because of the divided 3 parts. First part, second part as an academic subject. So we already compiled. Aiming, these should be include in academic education, a secular academic education field. So now, just this morning, we seriously discussed with Dalai Institute of something.
Dalai Institute of Social Sciences and Research.
And also some university in America also is paying some attention. Now, for example, in America, at least I think 2 cities, as far as I know, with the name City of Kindness, City of Compassion. So accordingly, they carry some sort of more activities regarding kindness and compassion. As a result, within the city, the students become much more peaceful, more compassionate. So therefore, this education really makes differences. So our existing education oriented about matter, about material value. So then I think we completely neglected about our inner value. So you see, we totally rely on sensorial experience or consciousness. So we are not adequate sort of knowledge about mental system. So the anger, attachment, these come with main mind, not sensorial consciousness. Sensorial consciousness is just medium, the door receiving information. Then real sort of feeling in the we call sixth mind, the mental level. So in order to tackle that, we have to sort of more knowledge about the whole system of mind or emotion. So usually I'm telling, in our education, the hygiene of physical, there already. Now, why not? We should include hygiene of emotion. That's something important. So we are working, and many people in this country really showing interest, and not only interest, but commitment already there. So I think next year, I think these organizations, they already sort of carry experiment in their own concerned sort of school or student. So already some positive result coming. So I think next year we will finalize some of these things. Yes.
Maybe we can have some direct questions.
Yes. Welcome.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for this splendid discourse. And from the very beginning, releasing the book on Nagarjuna, the great philosopher, Your Holiness was telling us that religion should be integrated with intelligence. Could you please give us a little more about how to integrate intelligence and religion?
There are some different religious traditions, different religion. I think theistic religion and also some non-theistic religion, I think very much emphasis about faith. Now, Buddhist teaching, Buddhism, Buddha himself, you see, told us or advised us, "Oh, my follower, bhikshus and scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." So therefore, Nagarjuna, in his writing, and his sort of student like Chandrakirti, they rejected some Buddha's own sort of teaching. If you accept this teaching, then it goes against reason. Therefore, reason is more important. So we cannot accept literally that Buddha's teaching. So the emphasis on reason, not faith. So the scientific way of approach also investigate and use reason. So therefore, the scientific way of sort of also the approach and Nalanda tradition is quite similar. So I learned some useful information from scientists. So as I have more conviction about scientific finding, such as the shape of this planet round. There's no Mount Meru, no place of Mount Meru, and the sun and moon. You see, sun very far, moon quite close. Even human being can reach there. So these are obvious through investigation. When I was in Lhasa, and 13th Dalai Lama sort of possessions, one sort of big telescope. So I used that telescope during night, at moon. I noticed there's a mountain and also shade. Because of the early night sort of, because of the soon after sunset, you see the shape of this mountain towards east, because sun's light created that sort of shadow. So then, one occasion, I invited my two tutors, and I set up that sort of telescope. And then the Ling Rinpoche, as well as the Trishan Rinpoche, say, "Whoa, there is a real mountain." There are mountain. So you see, these are the factor. That's the factor, and calculate and use through instrument or distance and calculation like that. So therefore, now great Nalanda master Bosubant, the younger brother of Arya Asanga, he's writing Abhidhammakosha Karika, the 3rd chapter. Because he described about world, about planet, about Mount Meru, measurement or size. All these he mentioned. This is now nonsense. So we have right, you see, to accept the reality, through scientific research, the reality very clear. And our own experience, when I fly from India to Europe, Europe to America, America to Hawaii, Hawaii to Japan, the round world, very clear. The sun, 24 hours, you see, God still remain related with this world. So, kasa Zambudriva and Juglaza, Shalibabo.
Videha.
Chandramini.
Guru.
No Palanche.
I forget the name. The West.
So four continents. So during night, the sun just exactly behind Mount Meru. So world here, Zambudriva, because of shadow of the Mount Meru, dark. And then size of moon and sun is more or less same. Distance same. Disgrace. So sometimes I jokingly express, Or when the Bosuband, when he wrote Apitamokosha Karika, naturally his age quite old, so his eyesight not very good. So he tried to look moon and sun, and a cloudy day he checked sun, size of sun. So he found more or less same size. So he wrote that way. So it is our liberty to reject these things. Because we, according to Buddha's own teaching, through experiment, through investigation, that finding is more authentic than just a scripture. Because scriptures are like that. Next question? Yes. Yes.
Pranam, Your Holiness. Is the human race that evolved that they can, seek the right path without the guidance of the spiritual teacher? You said there'll be no 15th Dalai Lama. So without the spiritual teacher, is it possible for the human race to evolve and find the right path?
I already mentioned there is no reincarnation of Buddha, Buddha Shakyamuni. His teaching is still there. So last 2,000, around 2,600 years, Buddha already dead, but his teaching is still there. Similarly, Nagarjuna, no Nagarjuna's reincarnation, no Nagarjuna's sort of formal reincarnation or such institution, but his teaching very much alive. So I think 11th century, I think 11th century, one great master of Katamba, the main disciple of Atisha Dipankara, when he almost dying, so his head is put on one of his main disciple, Potowa, great scholar, great practitioner with Bodhisattva. So then the Potowa, tear come. So one drop of tear, fell on Dromdamba's head. And then he looked Potowa, why you are crying? Then Potowa stated, till now you are our guru, so we can ask you, we can receive teaching from you. Now you no longer, and how to do. And then he told, now on his guru should be text. So that's the right thing. Sometimes lamas not very reliable. So these books, I think 1,000 years already tested by many practitioners, many scholars. So these texts are authentic. So this is really reliable. So without a lama, you can learn these things. You can practice accordingly. So no problem. If you too much emphasis lama, then I think you should create Lamaism.
There are some very important questions. Can you take these two questions?
Yeah. Yes, okay. Now time to go. Or before leaving, I have to go toilet. I drink a lot, so they automatically come out.
Okay, your last question, Your Holiness. Sometimes in your life, have you ever wished to be an ordinary person and not a Dalai Lama?
When I was very young, in the winter time, some sort of retreat with my teacher, the first teacher, Regent. So at least I think 2 hours sort of retreat. Then sometimes I boring. and my tutor also sleep. That, you see, because in the street of Podala, below there, there's some sort of young girls and boys. You see, they are daytime, they are animals, you see, because taking the grace, about sunset, you see, they returning. With sing, with because of the namdar.
Singing Tibetan opera.
So then sometimes I feel, I wish I should be one of them. But then gradually I realize as a disposition can be useful to serve other people, to serve Dharma.
Our spiritual director, Venerable Lama Rinpoche, to give the vote of thanks.
Yes. Not very long. Should be short. Okay.
I prostrate from the depth of my heart on behalf of the 6 million sentient beings and the fortunate attendants who came here for the teachings through His Holiness, the embodiment of compassion Buddha. Our Lord Desvara, who is the sole object of refuge of us, all 6 realms, and the originator of all our past, present, future happiness. Incomparable leader, freeing us from the oceans of samsara sufferings and bring us to peerless happiness, total cessation of obscuration and completion of realizations. For granting holy advice, teachings, like the nectar pacifying all the pains of the delusions, continued from beginningless samsara birth. His Holiness is generously Avalokitesvara, protected by kind compassion, Shakyamuni Buddha says, in the future, generosity will benefit extensively the sentient beings in the snowland Tibet, predicted to Bodhisattva Mingyuzum and Bodhisattva Tongwa Tunyu, not only proved historically, but also proved by experience. In the past, one of the times when His Holiness was in Deer Park, in Medicine, America, at my teacher's Geshe Sopa Rinpoche Center. At that time, the center members had an interview with His Holiness. And one lady raised up and said, His Holiness says he does not have bodhicitta and realization of emptiness only, but has great faith and great interest. Then she said, then we are hopeless. Then, out of much compassion, His Holiness took the aspect, slipped out from the holy mouth. Oh, I remember I was one of the Bodhisattva with Buddha in India during those times. So we who come here to listen from His Holiness are most unbelievable fortunate. Difficult to understand how this happened. For each word of His Holiness teachings, if we offer skies filled with diamonds and witchcraft and jewels, cannot repair. Even till we achieve enlightenment, still cannot repair the kindness. Please, His Holiness, grant the teaching at Tushita next Dharma celebration, and please guide all of us here after enlightenment. This Tushita Dharma celebration, receiving most precious teachings from His Holiness, also by the kindness of all the sponsors, all the members of Tushita, all the volunteers, all the organizing team and Ashoka Hotel. And all these organization people able to collect cause of happiness, so much extensive merits by sponsoring and volunteer working All this is by kindness. Professor Renuka Singh, Jawaharlal Nehru, she's also Tushita Mahayana Center Director, and due to her effort and devotion and compassion.